My friend, welcome to Leadership Synergized. I'm your host, Kevin Smith, and today is a special episode as we close out another school year across the United States. It's the perfect time to highlight a remarkable leader who's been making positive waves in education right here in the southern part of the state of Indiana. I'm so very thrilled to welcome Coach Joe Wilson, an inspiring assistant principal at Springs Valley High School and also a passionate baseball coach for the Blackhawks. With a unique blend of youthful energy and genuine dedication, Coach Wilson has been shaping the lives of students and athletes in his community, fostering a culture of growth and excellence. Just days removed from wrapping up a competitive baseball season, he's here to share valuable insights about leadership in education, in coaching, as well as the importance of self-reflection and his journey back to his alma mater. Join me, if you would, please, in welcoming Coach Joe Wilson to the show. Just want to take a moment, Coach Wilson, and welcome you to our show. And I know your baseball season, you also serve as baseball coach and assistant principal, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself here in a minute at the high school level there in French Lick. But just wanted to take a moment to thank you because it's been roughly 48 hours or so, give or take, when your baseball season ended, for joining us today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, coming on, and yep, season just wrapped up. I do want to say, after getting the invite from you, I was a little bit leery because I started listening to the other episodes, and I'm well out of my comfort zone when I see doctor this, doctor that, and I'm thinking, you got the professionals on here, and I'm thinking, why does Mr. Smith want me on here? So it made me a little bit worried. So I was on a deep dive all the past 48 hours, then thinking, trying to get up on my vernacular, my vocabulary to sound a little bit more intelligent out here for you, but I appreciate the opportunity. But yeah, we just, wrapped up our baseball season and, went out swinging. We went to extra innings, and it's all you can ask, especially from a good group of seniors who, I only had them for a few months as their first year head coach. So, just seeing the growth from March on, I wish I had 4 more years with those guys, but growth and progress is all we can ask for. And man, did we see that? And so, unfortunately, I would love to escape there with a win, but I couldn't be more proud of those guys. So I'm still kicking my tail for a couple of decisions I made here and there that maybe, could have changed the outcome. But as for those guys, I couldn't be happier. And, they all 6 really played well. And so they can hang their hat on that they went out with a very good game and went out swinging. So.
Well, Coach, no preparation. Don't get stuck on the titles in that aspect. Leadership is leadership, whether an individual has a title or not. The thing I always tell individuals, we all have the name our parents gave us here on earth that God helped guide them to in that regard. And it's the only title we need to have in that fashion. So what I really love about Coach Wilson, I really think everyone watching is going to get a chance to see this, is just the youthfulness when it comes into his work to grow and learn as a leader. You've just heard this a minute ago as he was talking about kicking himself about some decisions he made. And, look, the great leadership expert John Maxwell shares all the time, forget about practice, or experience. If you're not going back and evaluating that experience to learn from it, it's not going to be as useful as it possibly could be. Coach, you're certainly doing that with your season that just wrapped up. But we're going to talk more about your dual role, or probably multiple roles, if you will. But I'd just like to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah. So as you said, I'm Joe Wilson from French Lick, and, I'm back here at my alma mater. I was able to go on to college down in Evansville and then teach at a few different schools or be around and be at North Davies area. And I was just able to have the opportunity to come back home. I graduated from here. And so, 3/4 of the staff, they were in this building whenever I was coming through as a student. So, I couldn't be, more excited to come back. That was always the ultimate goal. Obviously, I know I'm, inexperienced, and, I was trying to get that experience, work my way. And that was, coming back here was always my ultimate goal. It just, the opportunity came up, and so I went for it. And I didn't think I could, persuade them to let me, give me the opportunity. But, with Mr. Bridget, he's crazy enough to give me the opportunity to come back. And so here we are. And, and I don't take it for granted whatsoever. I think I do think I have a unique perspective with it, fresh out of the classroom, fresh out of, still youthful, I guess you could say, in education. And so I think, I can bring a little bit different to it, but, I just am excited. I try to just, be still and keep an open mindset and just listen. Be slow to speak and quick to listen. And, I try that all the time, and, try to go talk to all the people who I admire and love and respect, and, pick their brain on, how they operate. And a lot of times, I can learn so, to be honest with you, most of the time I just watch people. I'm not one who, obviously there's a lot of, people who can, talk about their experiences and they've been there and that, but I'm one, I like to watch somebody who walks the walk and, and handles it day to day. And, I pick up on more of that. So just administrators who I've been around the past few years, the teachers who I've been around, just watching them go to work, watching them be professionals in their business and how they go. That's probably what I picked up on more than anything, and I'd say I can just think of right off the top of my head, whenever I was with North Davies, my head principal, Mr. Gerald, Ded Gerald, one of the biggest things I've ever, that was impactful for me is I was a baseball coach there, and I had a pancake breakfast, just as a fundraiser, and he's there, as a principal, but also as a grandpa. And, whenever it wrapped up, we're cleaning up, and, I'm trying to get the boys wiping down tables. He's the first one in the kitchen getting the mop out and cleaning it up. And, that was, to me, that just thought, he's the head honcho, and he wasn't making it known like, hey, I'm in here with the mop, I'm cleaning it up. It was, I saw it from afar, and I thought, if here's a guy who's been in it for, a long time. He's been a long time educator, probably 30 plus years as an admin, and he's willing to be that servant leadership. And, so just things like that. And not that I don't listen to when I ask them for advice, I definitely listen, but I'm one who just really tries to pick up on watching people operate day to day. That's kind of where I look for. So again, yeah, being back home, I couldn't be more excited. It's always been the ultimate goal. And the opportunity came a lot earlier than I expected, but man, I'm thrilled to be home. I'm thrilled to be back. And, this is why I went to college. This is where I went, to come back here, try to better our community, better our school, better our towns. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
Well, I know the community is excited to have you, and the children and the staff of the community is so blessed to have you, Coach. But Coach, you alluded to something a moment ago about learning, through observing in that aspect. And, we hear so often about being a lifelong learner. And, sometimes in the natural, our human mind is, well, I don't have time to learn. I don't have time to dive into this. Don't have time to take that course. But you pointed out something that I've come to appreciate and learn, have learned in my life, is our opportunity to learn is in front of us every moment of every day, in every moment, just simply by the people around us. If nothing else, with the experiences they're sharing, whether we're involved in the same experience or the moment that they're in at any point in time. And at times things just get in our way. Where's that natural ability, which it sounds very natural to me, come at for you? And what advice would you give to people who maybe are missing out on those opportunities today?
Slow down. I think it's easy to get sped up just in whatever career, whatever your day to day is. And, there's probably a lot of things being thrown at you from life, career, whatever it may be, and just slow down and watch experience, watch the people who've been there, done that. Mr. Pritchett does a great job of letting me fall flat on my face numerous times where I try to come up, do a new idea, if you will. And he does a great job. He's like, okay, sounds great. And then, whenever it doesn't go through, or I've messed it up, or it happens, he goes, yeah, I wanted to tell you that, but I wanted you to take a chance. He's like, I did this back, And, and so I guess there's two ways of looking at it. One, you'd be like, well, why didn't he warn me about that or this and that? But no, he lets me go, because, if you don't, I think in my opinion, if you don't let somebody try it, then they're going to be thinking, yearning, trying to do that. And so he lets me try these ideas and this and that. And so, and then we can have that conversation of, yep, it went that way for me. This is what I learned from it. And then it just kind of opens up but just, you know, watching, I used to do electrical work. I used to do accounting work with my brother, and just watching the people who have the experience, have the background, they've been there, done that. And, getting out of, we don't know everything, even though sometimes I like to think, I know a lot, and I always get humbled quickly, and just watching the professionals do their job and slow down. And, and I do that a lot in my faith too. I like to think that I've got a lot of, there's times where I think I've got it figured out, or, this and that. And then once again, you fall flat on your face, and then you just look around, and then you see, some experienced people at church and their marriage, and you just sit back and watch them operate. And that's, I think it's a beautiful thing. There's very little words, and they just show by example, just leading by example. So I think, just quit thinking you've got it all together. And just watch somebody, and, and take notes, watch them at work. So.
Thank you for sharing those words of wisdom, Coach. And, Coach, as I was preparing to come on the episode with you this morning, I sat down to make a list. Okay, here's Joe Wilson. He's a student, a lifelong learner, focused on faith and child of God, a father, a husband, a son, a brother, an educator, an assistant principal, a baseball coach, a mentor, a leader. My question would be, how do you find the rhythm in life for the success that you're having? Whether you see that success or not, it's occurring. It's occurring for all of us that had a chance to see you here back in the Valley area, the French Lick area, the past couple of years. Talk a little bit about, do you ever reflect on the rhythm you have to be able to keep those things where you want them to be with the people that you have in your life?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of days where you're thinking, what have I got myself into? It's overwhelming. And, it's funny. It seems like God's always got a sense of humor to let me, get a little more prideful, thinking I've got it all together, and then I'll fall flat, and then I gotta go run back. And then, I start doing it again. Another month, I'm winning some ball games. I'm thinking, man, I'm a coach. And then 4-game losing streak, and I'm right back. And, and so it's funny, and that it just, happens every time, but I know where to run to, on those car rides to work in the morning, on those car rides to, going back home, just in, talking to God and worship music. I know where to go to. I know where my foundation is. I'm terrible with artists, and I'm terrible with song titles, but there's a line in a song that I heard a couple weeks ago, and it's, I know who I am because I know who you are. And man, that's just been on my mind. And that's where my mindset is. There's a lot of moving parts all the time, also along with professionally, but I got a, wife and a little girl who's going to be 2 in July. So there's always moving parts of my life, but I just go right back to the source. I go right back to my foundation, and man, it just gets so much, I wouldn't say easier, because life is not easy. But when you just hand all of your stresses, your anxieties, your problems right over, just hand it over and say, God, I can't do it. I need your help. And how the stress just leaves you. It's just, I tell our baseball guys, it's like, I don't always know the answer, but I know the cheat code here. And and so that's the way I see it. I'm like, man, I wish everybody knew this, because I understand the anxieties. I understand the stresses. I understand the pressures of your day to day, but I also know where to take it when I'm dealing with that. And every single time it works out. My stresses, my anxieties are taken away, and you're just replenished. And it's, and I'll mess up again. I'll go another few weeks thinking I got it all together, and I'm going to fall flat, and then I go right back. But thank God that I had wonderful, I lost my dad a few years ago, and my mom's still here, but that I had two wonderful parents who showed me. They didn't just teach me, they didn't just talk. They showed me what that looked like in our household day to day for, my whole life, and still to this day. And so, that was instilled in us, and it wasn't by just being preached at. It was it was shown. And I picked up on that. And so thankfully, I had that upbringing. And so now, in this role, that's what keeps me going all the time. Cause I want to share that with others, I'm sorry to ramble on, but my dad always wanted me to go into ministry. And I was like, I don't think that's for me, but I wanted to get in, I think I always wanted to get to people who didn't enter in the church doors, who didn't feel loved or strong enough to walk in there. And so that's where I kind of use education. I'm like, man, there's a lot of lost, hurting kids who have been dealt a bad card or a bad hand. And, this is where we can do it. We see all walks of life. So I won't ramble on any longer, but my faith, my foundation, that's where it all goes back down to. And every single time when I'm in the midst of trials and tribulations, just handing it right back over and say, God, help me, give me the words to speak, tell me what to do here. And, seems to be working, helps out, every time. And I don't know if it helps professionally, but just releases my mind, and it's just amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you for sharing that, Coach. And Coach, what a great segue into next week's episode, and want to pick up just where we're leaving off with a couple of topics as we start next week. What you really hit upon is the value of being comfortable with who you are in your own skin, if you will, self-awareness, and then talk a little bit about the pressures you face today, and the value and the importance of parents. Coach, God bless you, my friend. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
My friend, thank you for joining us for this inspiring conversation with Coach Joe Wilson. His passion for education and his commitment to lifelong learning shines through in everything that he does, reminding us, all of us, of the importance of observing, reflecting, and staying true to ourselves in our leadership journeys. I hope that you have gained some valuable insights and inspiration as well to apply in your own life and work. Be sure to tune in next week as we continue our discussion with Coach Joe Wilson on those vital needs that ensure success in education. Until then, remember, leadership is about growing together, and every experience is a stepping stone to further wisdom and understanding. Stay inspired, my friend. Keep leading with purpose.